And we're back at it again with another live one for all you Bi-Conics wrestling nerds out there on the internet lands. And welcome to another episode of the Bi-Conic Review of Honor, aka Bro. I never get tired of saying that. As you can see, we are at half capacity this week. JVL and Jesse are out doing things. But we cannot wait to see them back next week. But holding down the fort this week is the tag team that you never knew that you wanted. It is myself, Mikey, and back again for another one. Wow, he liked the first time around and he decided to stick around, so that's great. Andrew, welcome back, my friend.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, no, it's been a lot of fun. Both the review shows and getting caught up on all this wrestling. It's been exciting, especially a good way to wrap up the week.
It really, really is. And man, this weekend's is jam packed. It's gonna be a lot of fun. We have NXT No Mercy tomorrow. We have Wrestle Dream on Sunday, and that's gonna be a lot of fun. But so is this episode of Ring of Honor. This was actually a really fun episode that I really, really enjoyed. The Ring of Honor, we really got to try to cut it down because hour and a half to 2 hours is a lot, especially for me and Andrew, who pulls double duty on Fridays, reviewing this and Impact Wrestling. We got to cut it down a little bit because pay per views don't even have that many matches when you put the Ring of Honor pay per views on.
Yeah, I feel bad complaining about getting so much wrestling, but yeah, I think Ring of Honor this week had 10 matches in this week's episode, so it definitely wasn't short on that. I like what they're doing with everything, but yeah, it's a lot to cover and a lot to kind of wait through. But it was worth it, especially for some of the matches that we got.
Oh, definitely. There were some fun surprises. There were some people that returned slash re-debuted, kind of. Like we got some crossover with AEW because there was a few of their stars on this week's episode, which I'm never going to complain about. But let's just jump right into it. So we we start Ring of Honor with what is literally a glorified squash match, but I'm not going to complain. So Josh Woods, the technical beast, taking on Braden Irving again. Again, squash match. Woods just goes in there and then hits the tilt of Woods, and then bam, that's how literally less than like 3 minutes.
That Tiltawoods too this week, like that was, I mean, rough in the right ways. I think this match was it was really good showing for Josh Woods to like live up to that kind of beast name. And that finisher was rough.
Again, Josh Wood continues to prove every time he's on Ring of Honor. He's one of my personal favorites. And now that he's slowly getting this wins, again, I am hoping that he gets another shot at that Pure Rules title against Shibata at some point because their first encounter was great. I would love to see them do like 15, 20 minutes for the second round. So, I mean, Ring of Honor, we have time between now and Final Battle, which is in December. Or normally it's in December. Who knows when they're going to do it this time around? But find a way to open Ring of Honor again. It's like, oh, okay. Well, that was good. So after this, again, I do love the consistency, and because I was wondering how are we going to address that fact that Mogul Embassy no longer are the Ring of Honor 6-man tag team champions. And so Lexi is backstage with Prince Nana and Mogul Embassy, and literally Prince Nana, being the hype man that he is basically saying that they're gonna Mogul Embassy's gonna get back on track. Gates of Agony have a tag team match. Brian Cage has a match tonight. And then, of course, as we know, crossover, Swerve has this match against Hangman at Wrestle Dream. Again, Prince Nana is one of my favorite managers right now.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. It's funny too because yeah, I was thinking the same thing, especially during the matches later. He just has a classic uh, manager feel to him. He's a lot of fun. He gets involved in the right ways. He's kind of over the top character, but it works. And it's funny because when they were doing this promo, I was like, all right, Gates of Agony tag team title. I feel like Cage is going to be going after that TV title. And then they hinted at it, the announcers did later on in the evening. So I'm like, all right, it seems like that's a pretty clear angle that they're going for. And I like that for Mogul Embassy, especially with, like you were saying, Swerve being over in AEW, kind of focusing on that. Because I mean, the three former 6 man champions are those guys are just some beasts, and I want to see what they can do because they're great talent for Ring of Honor.
They are, and we will talk about them when we get to their matches because those, honestly, those two were probably some of my favorites tonight. But after this, we jump straight into the next match. Now, I am excited. I am a big fan of Scorpio Sky from AEW, and Scorpio is coming back to Ring of Honor, and he's hasn't been here since 2018, so it's been a while. But Scorpio side taking on Tony Nese. I'm gonna give the listening audience three guesses as to what Tony Nese had to say before the match. And this is I'm so sad that JBL's not here because this is one of his favorite things, and it's starting to slowly become one of my favorite things too. Tony Nese literally calling out the crowd is like basically you are all fat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good heel gimmick for him to go after it. He seems to be able to deliver the promos, and the speeches in a really like believable, entertaining way. Obviously, it fits for his physique type, and it's a good way to make the audience really not like you. So it works well for him. And seeing Scorpio Sky back was cool. I was actually we just saw Christopher Daniels not too long ago, and obviously Kazarian is over in Impact. So I was when I saw Daniels last, I was like, where's Scorpio Sky? I haven't seen Scorpio Sky in a while. So to see him come back, I feel like Ring of Honor, if he's going to be doing a lot of work there, is a great place for him to kind of excel and kind of not get lost in the mix. But it was a fun match.
I thought this was a fun match as well. I love that as always Tony Nese does his thing and then gets interrupted by the entrance, but normally the person comes down to the ring. Tony Nese decided to change it up a bit and try to go for Scorpio while he was still coming down. Scorpio Sky with that really, really nice but nasty looking like back body drop immediately is like, damn. I was like, all right, I figured this is how this match is gonna go. And then of course the little chase sequence around the ring for a little bit. And then once we get in, Nice is like, nah, I'm faking it. And then Mark Sterling with the distraction into the ring steps, boots to Scorpio. For the first half of this match, Tony Nese and Smart Mark Sterling were just pretty much decimating Scorpio. And then the back suplex comes in, and then Scorpio Sky just literally takes off.
There was a moment in there that I can't remember the last time I saw this happen, and he did it in a unique way. But Scorpio Sky hit a drop down that actually tripped his opponent. So often it's just you drop down, the guy runs over you, then they run. Usually they hit a leapfrog, but he actually hit a drop down on his back instead of on his front. Tripped Tony Nese. That was just nice little for knowledge of wrestling to see someone actually have that work. He had a great. There was a when he hit I think it was off the second rope. He had a sunset flip on Tony Nese, but he got so much height. It was like he stalled in the air for a minute and had to reach back to grab Tony Nese as he was coming down. But it was just watching Scorpio Sky. I mean, he's still going 100%. Phenomenal wrestler. Really hope he can get some good pushes going on. There was a moment when right before Scorpio Sky hit the big suplex at the end, that you could actually hear Mark Sterling yell out, "Oh shit!" And it was just a great combination of the different performers out there, and I'm interested to see what they're gonna do with Scorpio Sky. I feel like Tony Nese is pretty clear where they're going with him. But it'll be interesting to see what's going to happen with Scorpio Sky, especially being a veteran like he is.
Oh, absolutely. And of course, I love that Scorpio got the win here. I want to see Scorpio stick around a little bit. I know he just came back from injury and he's slowly doing stuff on AEW, but I would be okay with him being in Ring of Honor for a little bit, especially if we get like really fun matches like this, because this was great. And then after this, I I have a bias towards my luchadors because I always love them. They're always my favorite. I really this next match I really enjoyed it. Gravity versus Lee Johnson. Of course, Gravity doing his whole slow mo walking on the moon entrance bit is always one of my favorite things. I I feel like we're finally kind of separating like the trio that we've been seeing between Lee Johnson, Action Andretti, and then Darius Martin. I'm kind of glad everyone's kind of splitting up just a tiny bit. Um, I thought this was a fun match. Again, it was a lot shorter than I thought it was going to be, but I thought this was good. I yeah, I thought this was okay. Gravity and Lee was a lot of fun. I just wish it went a lot longer than it did.
Yeah, there was. I think that it was fun to see Gravity in a singles match. I've only really gotten to see him in tag or six-man tag matches, um, but it was interesting watching him wrestle and actually getting to see, like, obviously he's the his older brother is well established, has been around for a while, and we're just getting to see Gravity, but watching him wrestle on his own, there were some moments that he kind of reminded me of older kind of like WCW luchadors, like bringing back some classic style. And then there were a few splashes. His finish, um, and then one he did springboard, where splashes kind of reminiscent of like Aerostar, with the like stall in the air with the hands behind the back. Um, but I it was nice to see him kind of get that chance to kind of go out there and do his own stuff. Lee Johnson, I think, was a great performer to put against him, because they're both so athletic and so fast paced, but still very different styles. I thought it was a really good, solid match. It was kind of at the top of the matches for me. It just kept seemed to get better and better as the night went on with the matches. Um, there was that snap power slam that Gravity hit on Lee Johnson too. That was crazy low. I thought Lee Johnson's head was going to go into the mat, but the two of them just worked phenomenally together. And I hope we get to see some more from both of them, but especially Gravity.
Oh, for sure. And they always mention be like Gravity is the younger brother of, and I'm like, yep. But I love. I'm ready for his older brother to finally be cleared to come back because I miss him so much. But I thought this was a fun match, and then we get into probably one of my personal outside of the continued story of Billy and Athena because that's like one of my favorite things right now. The Outrunners are so delusional. I love it so much. So
So good.
Lexi's backstage with the Outrunners, and they literally call themselves the best tag team in the galaxy, and hyping themselves up for their match against Action Andretti and Darius Martin later in the night. I
There were
love
moments that Lexi almost broke while they were just doing their
right.
ridiculous. There's at one moment, I think it was Turbo kisses his bicep, and she just almost loses it. Like, they're so ridiculous, but they go into their style, their gimmick 110%. And like that promo and that match, like I was like, all right, I love these guys. These guys are so entertaining. They're so ridiculous. Such a good throwback, especially for tag team wrestling. So I'm about it. Bring them on. They're entertaining. They're fun to watch.
Listen, I am never against when we have tag teams like this. Is like they're ridiculous. They're comedy wrestlers. I love it. I love it to death. And we'll talk about them more later. All right, so we get our first women's match of the night. Billy Starks taking on Lady Frost, which I thought this was a really great match. Shout out to Billy Starks. I love the fact that your ring gear is like Sally from Nightmare Before Christmas. That's one of my favorite like animated slash claymation movies on the planet. I was a child of the '90s, so it was on rewatch a lot. And yes, it is a Christmas movie before anybody asks. But I thought this was really great. Lady Frost coming in hot to begin with the match. You know, out of the code of honor, she immediately comes in with the knee to Billy, but then Billy comes right back. Athena on the outside was killing me the entire match, blowing the whistle, like yelling at Billy to get it right. I
The
loved it so much.
There was the moment where she actually used the whistle blow to distract Lady Frost when she just blew it in her face, and then kind of gave that distraction a little bit. So, kind of Jimmy Hart with the megaphone kind of thing. Um, and Lady Frost is great. I've been watching her actually on the Indies. Her and her husband, they do a lot of work both together and separately. So I'm happy to see that she's kind of getting this push in Ring of Honor. I like the style she brings, and I thought she was a really good opponent to have against Billy. I think it was a good showing. Billy is just so likable. It's just you want to root for her. She's got that infectious smile. She's got kind of the early Bailey feel to her, and she showed some really good skills. And it's crazy that she's 18, like insane. So I think this was a good match. I think there was a moment when Billy actually kicked Lady Frost in the face, like really connected. But I think this was also a really good setup for where the Athena and Billy, the whole Minions storyline is going. So I thought, on top of just being a solid match, and I think there were a lot of matches in this card that really progressed storylines, which is always a good thing.
Oh, absolutely. And again, during the match, my standout moment came from when Billy came back and she hit a rebound to kind of kick, but then Lady Frost vaulted off her back into a drop kick. I yelled at my screen as I was watching this, but what happened after the match, like you said, it's I am intrigued because it sets up where the next chapter of this goes. Because Athena, once again, normally she like all she does, she attacks Lady Frost after the match and violently flings her into the barricade, which was fun to watch. And then she tries to do the thing where she, tries to throw Lady Frost into the belt, but no, Billy pulls the belt away, and then Athena gets in her face and starts yelling at her for not listening. So I'm like, yes, Minion is rebelling. I'm so excited. I love this so much.
Can we also talk about Billy's finisher?
Yes. Oh my goodness.
I don't know what they're gonna call it, but that was awesome. Like oh, it was it's those little nuggets that she gets her own finisher. It's a new thing we haven't seen before. It was a unique take on like a pedigree style move, and it's her kind of coming into her own, and it was a beautiful finisher. Like both people, the way it was hit and the way it was taken was awesome.
Oh boy. So after that little segment, we get Lexi is backstage with Allison Kay. This just basically sets up that, Allison's been on a losing streak for a little bit, but she's ready for Mercedes Martinez. Here's a hint, no one's really ready for Mercedes. But I love the enthusiasm, and of course, the sets up later where we do get Allison and Mercedes later tonight.
Well, and it was nice too. It was
Then
good to get that history, get the like,
mhm.
find out some information if you're not familiar with it about the history between the two of them. Even though I think it's pretty clear that, with the run that Mercedes is on, that where it's going to go. But it's a good promo.
Oh, absolutely. And then we get to the aforementioned Action Andretti and Darius Martin taking on the Outrunners. I love me my comedy matches. I thought this was a lot of fun.
It was. It was.
And this actually got a pretty decent amount of time.
Yeah, and you know what? It was funny because I noticed when Action Andretti and Martin came out that they had shirts on that said "Stay Ready" and it had their names on it. So they actually have like tag team gear, other than just one of them's wearing Top Flight gear and the other one's wearing their own gear that just are the same colors. And this match was the first time where not that I haven't enjoyed their matches together, but really felt like they were a tag team, not just one half of a tag team with a friend who's like filling in for the other half of the tag team. I don't know if it's because we had the Outrunners with them, but yeah, it was a fun match. Both sides got to kind of flex their muscles, for no pun intended, with the Outrunners, but for what they do, and it was kind of fun to see the Outrunners being the comedic kind of goofball team, but also kind of playing into the fact that they're also kind of the heel team. Kind of taking advantage of stuff, doing the blind switch, kind of cheating when they can. It was really fun into what both teams kind of bring to the match.
Oh, absolutely. And of course, we all knew what the outcome was. Outrunners aren't going to be winning this one, but it was a nice, fun match. Give Darius and Action a win. Outrunners continue to be one of my favorite newer things that Ring of Honor is throwing at us on screen, and I love it. And I'm gonna surprise a lot of people because, okay, it is no secret that me and JVL and Jesse, we have talked to at nauseum about this, how much we don't like Cole Carter whenever he's on our screen. This one wasn't as egregious because this was more focused on Griff than anything, which I loved. So Lexi's backstage with Griff, Maria, and Cole. Griff wants to be in this tag team, but they got to do things the right way. And then he finally addressed the elephant in the room. He's like, my old tag team partner, Brian Pillman Jr., isn't here anymore. And he doesn't want that same fate for himself or for Cole, but they got to do things the right way, in which, Maria and Cole agreed. Spoiler alert, we didn't really get that later in the match, but you know what? This one wasn't as egregious because Griff was the sole focus. And again, I appreciate the fact that we finally addressed the fact that Brian Pillman Jr. is not in Ring of Honor or AEW anymore. Spoiler, there's a teaser vignette that dropped on NXT this week that's teasing him. So
Hint,
that's
hint.
that's where he's currently at. But I want good things for Griff. That's what I want.
Yeah, I thought this was a good way of kind of building Griff Garrison's character. Really playing into the reality of what it's like to be a professional wrestler, especially now with all these companies that you could get signed to, you could get released from. And it just brought more reasoning than just, I'm the good guy and you're the bad guy, but like, we're supposed to work together. Um, so I thought that was good. It helps play up for all three of them. And yeah, it was interesting. I have some. We'll talk about it when we get to their match. But there was a moment at the end that kind of makes me wonder where they're going to be going with this. But we'll get to that later.
We definitely will. And then we get another women's match. Hey, take a look at that, other promotions. You can have more than one women's match on a card. Like, go figure. And of course, it's one of my personal favorites, legit Layla Hirsch taking on Lady Luck. And as normal, before the match starts, Maria is out there watching from the stage. You know, bless Lainey's little heart. She got some pretty good offense in, but then literally as soon as that was done, once Layla popped up with a German suplex, it was over. It was over in an instant.
Oh yeah, that was rough, but that was perfect. And it was funny because going into this match, they announced her being 10-0. Obviously, now she's 11-0. My first thought was like, man, if you got that long of a winning streak, where's that title shot coming? And of course, we got that call out right at the end of the match, which was great. I think she's a great competitor to go against Athena. It can be a really fun match, but yeah, it was nice to see Laney Luck. Like I've said before, I like that Ring of Honor and AEW both. Even when you're pretty sure they're going to be squashes, they give the opponents that you're pretty sure aren't going to win a chance to kind of show some stuff. especially Laney Luck being a returning, performer. Um, I think it was good to see some of that good offense, and it just made Hirsch's win look even that much more dominant.
Oh, I totally 100% agree. And we'll talk a little bit more about Layla because this isn't the only time we see her tonight. Listen, Lexi is. I think this episode is the most I've ever seen Lexi backstage with a whole bunch of people. So Lexi is getting all these interviews in. So this time she's backstage with Diamante and Mercedes Martinez. So Mercedes states that she's beaten Allison Kay over and over again and is going to continue that trend tonight. I'm like, yes, Mercedes Martinez continuing to be a badass. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, and it
So,
was it was
yep,
fun to see her
go ahead.
talk. Oh, sorry. It was fun to see her talk, but I gotta say, Diamante looked like a bruiser in the outfit that they had her set up in. Like she was, even though she looks like she's a foot shorter than Mercedes, she was just like, oh yeah, there's the muscle right there. She is just a beast.
Absolutely. Here, take my lunch money. Like I'm not trying to fight. It was so good. So after this, we get the return to Ring of Honor. Now, unfortunately, I'm not too familiar with Jimmy Jacobs, but based on what I can research, I know that he's a big staple of Ring of Honor. And so for him to return to the ring since 2015 in his hometown was great. And then I saw who he was up against. I'm like, oh, bye, Jimmy.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But it was a very good showing. Like it was good to see Jimmy Jacobs get the chance to really kind of get some good offense in there, bringing his own style. And I mean, obviously they're obviously giving Shane Taylor a big push, and when you look at the two of them, you get kind of a pretty strong feeling of the way it's going to go. But it was nice that it wasn't just an absolute squash, and there were some good back and forth moments. It makes me wonder: is Jimmy Jacobs just going to be popping in and out for some stuff, or are we going to get to see more from him? And I don't think they're going to do anything with him and Shane Taylor as like kind of a feud, but it'll be fun to see if he pops up and where he pops up in Ring of Honor
Oh
because
yeah.
I believe
I hope
he's a
Jimmy
producer,
Jacob
right?
sticks around. Yeah, yeah. I think now that I think about it, I think Jimmy is a producer backstage. So again, kind of do a thing like what Christopher Daniels does. Like he produces, he's backstage, but then ever so often, when need be, just pop him into a match or whatever. And I'm not going to complain. But Shane picks up the win here. Again, Shane is kind of getting this push because though we haven't seen my man's is on the screen in like 2 weeks. Him and Keith Lee are supposed to be having a feud, so I'm really hoping that we pull the trigger on this because Shane versus Keith is something I want to see really badly.
Yeah, yeah. It's it'll be another big beefy match. But yeah, I wonder if they're gonna just start having Shane just kind of tearing through people, and then it's like, is Keith Lee gonna stop that momentum, kind of a thing. But I will never complain about getting to see Keith Lee in the ring. So definitely bring him on back.
Me and you both. And then we get our answer because Layla had the call out at the end of her match. Lexi backstage with Maria. And Lexi trying to ask about the tag team, but then Layla Hirsch interrupts and says that things tend to get messy when other people get in her way, especially when she's trying to handle business. And then while Maria doesn't think Layla is ready for a title shot, the board of directors for Ring of Honor think otherwise. And next week we're getting Layla Hirsch versus Athena. I am so pumped. Oh my goodness, yes, the wrestling gods love me this week.
Yeah, and that should be the main event for next week, right?
It better be. Please let it be the main event. Please let
Yeah,
it be the main event.
I want a good, solid length match out of the two of them. I want to see some good back and forth. I feel like there's a very strong chance that Athena is walking out with the title, and that might set up the idea of, Maria being able to kind of spin this and be like, look, you tried it on your own. You didn't listen to me. So maybe you should come over and see what I can do for you, kind of a thing. But either way, it's going to be awesome, and yeah, I think it's a match that deserves to be in that main event slot.
Oh yeah. It I'm excited. It's gonna be a really fun time and I cannot wait for all four of us to review that because I have yet to see what's on the card for next week, but immediately this is probably gonna be my match of the night. Cannot wait. Now, wrestling wise, this was not my match of the night, but just from a pure entertainment spectacle. I never complain when Dalton Castle and the boys are on my screen. So Dalton Castle and the boys taking on Ren Jones, Trenton Tormenta, and Xavier Walker. This was a 30-minute squash match to continue to get Dalton a win. God, please let Dalton Castle be on my television screen every single week.
I he that trios right there is just so entertaining. And on top of just being entertaining, uh, they have so much skill. I mean, the speed and agility of the boys is crazy. Up there with all of the other luchadors. And Dalton Castle is both such a good in ring performer, but just constantly on. Is such a good, vocal performer. Watching them wrestle together, obviously they've been doing it for a while, the three of them. So yeah, even against a team, there's no doubt that they're going to win. It was such a fun match.
It was such a fun match. And of course, please, again, my final statement on this match give me more Dalton Castle and the boys. That's all I ever need in my life right now.
So let me ask you this then: at the
And
very
then,
end, so it's started
mm-hmm.
off with Dalton Castle grabbing the camera and talking directly into it, but it also ended with him. And he talked about how he was going to bring something new, and no one's going to stand in his way and all this stuff. You think Dalton's going to get a push for a singles title?
I think so. And we've been kind of on and off. We kind of been playing off of the fact that Dalton is still a little upset of how his match against Samoa Joe ended because technically at the pay-per-view there was Stokely got in the way and kind of took Dalton's chance away from being able to because he almost had Joe and then Stokely kind of got the distraction which allowed Joe to basically make Dalton tap. I don't know. So I don't know if we're getting a run back of him and Joe, if we're getting him back into the main Ring of Honor title picture, which I'm okay with now that it is now on Eddie Kingston, which again, I'm so happy that Eddie got it. And at least with Eddie, I'm pretty sure we're gonna get more title defenses than we did with Claudio. Like, love you, Claudio, but it's not great when your world champion is absent for pretty much the entirety of their reign.
I will say that with Ring of Honor, I'd really like to see. I get the whole like crossover with AEW and Ring of Honor and everything, but currently the Ring of Honor tag team titles are in AEW. The Ring of Honor six-man tag team titles are in AEW. So we have three of their titles, which technically are kind of in Ring of Honor, although we've seen Eddie and Samoa Joe um, in AEW quite a bit. So yeah, it'd be nice to get to see those, showing up more in Ring of Honor, and hopefully with some of the big pay per view events, we'll get to see more of that action. I do like the fact that we get to see the titles more consistently by seeing them in AEW, but it'd be nice to see them bring something to Ring of Honor rather than add something to AEW.
Oh, absolutely. And if you check out the Dynamite review, you saw I went off I went off on a tiny bit of a tangent, on the Dynamite review because I it made me sad that the tag titles and mostly the tag titles are not being defended in Ring of Honor. And then again, side tangent, the fact that this is a handicap match, I'm like, oh, the righteous have no chance on winning. That makes me sad.
Yeah, no, no. The only way that the righteous are going to win is if they're going to actually split up better than you, baby. And I don't think that's happening right now. There's also a part of me that hopes that we just continue to get this swerve of expecting that's going to happen, and it just doesn't. But yeah, no, with the way things are going, no, that's staying there for a while, and that's a bummer because again, a tag team wrestling fan, I'd like to see it really build up those tag team divisions, especially in the company that it's supposed to be for.
Yep. And again, I called it equivalent exchange because we have the main title on somebody who's going to defend it pretty much more regularly than Claudio, but the exchange was is that the Ring of Honor Tag Team Championships are going to be on AEW, as well as probably the two tag teams that were probably the most prevalent in Ring of Honor since the Kingdom is wrapped up in the story. Righteous is in AEW. So that doesn't really leave a bunch of other tag teams in the division. And Aussie Open is about to face off against FTR. So I still want justice for my boys. I was like, they lost those titles too soon.
Yeah, maybe this will give a good chance for like Gates of Agony and some of those tag teams to start building themselves up in Ring of Honor. And then who knows, maybe they can play into the concerns of the fans and kind of say, like, hey, you guys are off here defending against other people, other companies. Once you come back to Ring of Honor and actually defend it against some tag teams here. So I don't know, but bring them back. Let us see those titles.
Oh, absolutely. So after that, we get Cole Carter and Griff taking on the infantry. So again, I actually really like this match, maybe because of the fact I was trying to ignore Cole throughout this whole entire thing. But I love the little bits of storytelling we get because Griff really wants to do this by the book. He wants to be a good guy wrestler. And ever so often, he has to stop because Cole and Maria are trying to pull their shenanigans. And he's like, no, we're not doing this. And for the most part, it works. But unfortunately, because they have to stop, the infantry tend to get the upper hand against in the offense. But then, I love that again, I love that Maria is distracting the ref. I also love that Trish Adora was out there with the infantry, so it evened the odds a little bit. Unfortunately, it was not enough because Carter got that rope assisted roll up to score an upset win in my opinion because the infantry right now has been kind of on a hot streak and they're like one of the favorites right now in Ring of Honor. And what was more interesting to me is the fact that after this match, Griff was not happy with how it went, but he still left with Maria and Cole afterwards. So I was just like, ooh, so how are we playing this one?
So this was what I wanted to bring up. So at the end when he was walking out, he was like, see, this is how we get it done." Like he almost didn't really kind of notice the feet on the ropes, but I'm pretty sure it was hard to tell. We have to see from another angle. But I think Griff Garrison was holding Carly Bravo from getting back in the ring to break up the pin, which, depending on his position, he may not have seen the feet on the ropes. He was just trying to stop that interference from the outside, which you could say is maybe not cheating. But in that action, he helped his partner cheat to win. So I'm wondering where that's going to go because I don't feel like Griff Garrison's going to like flip Cole and Maria to suddenly like having a change of heart. So I don't know if it's just going to eventually implode on itself or are they going to eventually wear down on Griff Garrison to kind of see the advantages of not playing by the rules. But I also don't have the bitterness of Cole Carter yet. I've only seen a little bit of him. I think uh, outside of everything, I think Garrison and Carter could be a really solid tag team. They're both pretty big guys. They're both really athletic. I think their styles mix really well together. Um, but it's their personalities and how are those going to click, and are they going to be able to work as a tag team? But I'm interested to see where it goes. So that's kind of the point: is did the story hook me? And each week it's gotten me a little more interested. So I'll be interested to see where it goes from here.
I agree. And then more kind of questionable heel action because Lexi's backstage with Ethan. Paige. Paige talks about, he's still on this winning streak, and he continues on before being interrupted by Rohit Raju. And Rohit, mentions that he hasn't been in Ring of Honor for a while. And then we got a little bit of all ego Ethan Page back because he literally told Rohit, is like, hey, enjoy your screen time because this match isn't gonna be going long either. I was just like, ooh, I
I'm all
love
for
it
it.
when
I'm all
Ethan
for it.
Page. Yep. I love when he is all ego Ethan Page. I was like, yes, bring it back to me in small doses.
He just posted a picture too on social media, flexing, saying the hibernation is over. So I think Ethan Page is a great acquisition, if you call it, for Ring of Honor. To go for any of those singles titles, whether it's the television title or the world title. Honestly, I think him making a world title run, he's got the character features that could make him just the person that you love to hate, but at the same time find yourself rooting for him. Um, uh, and he's such a fan of wrestling too that you just know he's loving every minute of it, and the fact that he gets to do this stuff. So I didn't think this no ego Ethan Page was going to last for very long. And I'm happy each week is just going to chip away, and just more of that ego is going to come out. And once the full ego Ethan Page comes out, I think it's going to just be such an awesome thing to watch.
I totally agree. And we'll talk more about Ethan in his match because again, more Ethan all the time is never a bad thing. Just like with this next match, more of Mercedes Martinez, please, as she took on Allison Kay. I love that Diamante tried to distract Kay on the floor, but Allison's like, nah, we're good. And then literally for the rest of the entire match, Mercedes and Allison just went at it. And of course, it was great. But again, Diamante does kind of hit and helps a little bit because she hits Allison with the wheelbarrow cutter on the floor, which allows Mercedes to get the win with the fish. That fisherman's buster of hers, man. Holy crap. Again, Mercedes is my girl. She won. More Mercedes, please. No. And eventually, if they want to keep building it up, I would love to see Mercedes go tangle up with any of these two women in this backstage segment. We get Billy and Athena part two, where I love that for this one, Lexi's is interviewing, and on the T-shirt it says like best friend. I was just like, oh, I love these little touches. I love it, bestie. I love it so much. It's like bestie. I love it so much. But Lexi interviews Billy. Billy was happy to win, though she was unaware that Athena helped. Enter Athena from stage right, left, whatever you want to call it. And she's upset with Billy, the fact that she still doesn't have a killer instinct, and she wants her to take notes because she's going to handle business against Layla, which pretty much confirms both sides that Layla versus Athena for that title is next week. God, I'm excited. Oh, absolutely. I love it. And then I'm biased as hell, but this is next match is my match of the night just because, again, all the meat in the ring. Iron Savages versus the Gates of Agony. Yes, ma'am. Like this was my match of the night only because I love Iron Savages, I love Gates and Agony, and I just love big guys going up against each other and agile power hitting big guys to boot as well because both teams can get some hops when they want. Oh yeah. It made the Gates of Agony still look strong, but also again, it wasn't a squash match, so Iron Savages continue to do their thing. Again, if they want to run this program a couple more weeks, even a month or two, then I'm okay with it. And honestly, just keep between these two infantry, Griff and Carter, possibly, and then the return whenever Righteous and Kingdom come back. That's a solid tag team division that I do not mind. You know, I again, I'm biased as hell. This was my match of the night just because I love a Haas match, and Iron Savages are my favorite Haas's at the moment. Just how ridiculously silly but intimidating they are as well. It would be such a great thing, and I'm excited to see what happens next for both teams, honestly. Preceding this, we then get into Ethan Page versus Rohit Raju. Again, Ethan's premonition came true. Again, I love the ego Ethan Page taunt. It's one of my favorite things. So Ethan, tries to go for Ring of Honor, but gets booted immediately. And then Ethan literally just drops him. Ego's edge. This doesn't last long. Rohit tries his best, but Ethan's like, I told you this is what happened, but no, you didn't want to believe me. So bam, here it is. And again, Ethan gets another win. Oh, absolutely. And again, I love the fact that Ring of Honor decided to bring Ethan here because he was kind of getting lost in AEW. And so putting him on Ring of Honor, I think, will allow him to thrive. And again, more Ethan Page, all ego Ethan Page every single day, please. Then we get into the main event, Brian Cage versus Metalik. Again, big but agile Brian Cage versus Luchador Metalik. And this match ruled. I loved it so much. I loved it. I was like, yo, where was this in your arsenal, Brian Cage? Like, holy crap. I uh, yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think Mogul Embassy had my favorite matches of the entire night. Again, from your big hoss between Gates of Agony and Iron Savages. And again, for me personally, Brian Cage continues to impress me and surprise me, and I know he's that good. I think we should keep him in consideration because I feel like he doesn't get talked about all that often. I was just like, listen, Brian Cage is out here being a hoss when he needs to, but people forget like the technical aspects he does, how quick he is for such a big guy. This match ruled, and any against any luchador, this would have been fun. But Metalik also has just a very finesse to his kind of style of lucha libre that paired up with Brian Cage just makes so much fun and great TV to watch. Oh, 100% agreed. And since we're at the end of it and we're already talking about it, if I had to give my rating for this, again, this is a really fun Ring of Honor. And I appreciated the fact that now we kind of have put the craziness of the scheduling in terms of all in and all out kind of finally in the review. And then Ring of Honor kind of not necessarily having anything to do with Wrestle Dream this weekend. They can go back to doing their own thing for a little bit. I love that we're building these matches and we're building, and I'm slowly seeing all these things. And potentially, if they wanted to go to, we might be seeing the genesis of maybe what to expect when it comes to Final Battle later this year for their pay per view, or even just fun Ring of Honor episodes down the line. But for my rating, again, this was fun. There wasn't really any stinker matches this week. Everything was pretty good for everything. I didn't really have anything that was like, "Nah, okay, like this is not great." So I'm gonna use the empanada scale. So I'm gonna say this was 3.5 empanadas out of 5. Again, this is really solid. It was a lot of fun, and I think this is pretty good, especially if we continue to build on what happened in tonight's episode. Also, I'm hella hyped for Athena versus Layla next week, so I'm already looking forward to that so bad. And with that, unfortunately, that does bring us to the end of another bro for this week. But to fret not, as we mentioned, we're getting Athena versus Layla next week, so that's going to be great. And I cannot wait to have Andrew back, as well as Jesse and John. That way, the four of us can talk about how amazing Ring of Honor is next week. But if you like this review, you can check out our other reviews here on the YouTube channel at Bi-Conic's Wrestling Podcast. You can also check us out on the social medias at BC WrestlePod all over the place to see when these reviews go up, as well as some behind the scenes shenanigans. And if you want to hear our more unhinged opinions, check us out at the Bi-Conics Wrestling Podcast, where it's like the reviews on YouTube, but crazier, more unexpected, and more conspiracy theory. So, Andrew, I would say it was lovely to have you, and I can't wait to see you next week. But at the time of this recording, I'm literally going to see you for Impact in less than 45 minutes. So this is going to be yes, I'm so excited. Make sure to go check out that Impact review because you'll see Mikey lose his shit like more than one occasion for the review, especially for what we're getting for Bound for Glory. But that is for Impact for all of us here at the Bi-Conic Review of Honor for our Ring of Honor review. Remember, take care of yourself, love one another, and until the next review, stay Bi-Conic, you beautiful peoples. We'll see you later.